Get lumped up tonight. Listen to Rob Rossi and RockerMike on the only podcast that I'll hear. That won't make me wanna rip off my ears. Oh, the Rock Show, 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 the Rock Show. Oh, I want the Rock Show. The Rock Show, 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 the Rock Show. I want the Rock Show. Let's get lumped up.
Hello, people. Welcome to a huge show. This is one of our biggest shows that we had in a long time. We have a special guest from Hey Bartender. We have Anthony. We have RockerMike, the rock specialist. And you got myself, and we're talking about today the making of the White Album. To me, one of the best Beatles album other than the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Man. But I probably fucked that up. And Mike, you want to give a little decoration? Because once again, the family lost a member.
Yeah, we're going to dedicate this episode to our friend Billy the artist, Billy Miller, from International Bar. He was a regular there for many years, fixture in the East Village, a world-renowned artist. Billy the artist, you would know his bright color, style, anywhere. He was very famous. He designed Swatch. He designed sets, I believe, for Rent. He was involved with years back.
He also had the piano.
Yes,
piano, he can play the jazz.
He could play piano. I was this hit me really hard this weekend. He got sick very suddenly last month and passed away after just a couple of weeks. But Billy was a great guy, a good drinking buddy in the bar, and he was also a very early proponent, or he gave me and Rob a lot of confidence when we were starting these podcasts. When we started the rock shows, when it was just one podcast, the Rock Show, we were doing the shows from the bar Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, and Billy used to be there, and he would listen, and he says, "You guys are great. You got a good chemistry. Keep it going. Keep it going." And then as we got on a roll, he would always say, "Hey, what's next? I loved your show last week." The guy was great. I mean, he really gave us a lot of confidence and everything to keep doing this. But he was like that with everybody. He was a guy, when he came in the bar, he always had a nice word to say. If it was 11 o'clock, you look at your watch, oh, Billy's coming in. He was like clockwork with that. And he come in with a paper under his arm, old school kind of guy. I think he was originally from Cleveland, but he was in New York for like the last 30-odd years. So he was an honorary New Yorker. And what, you got the Hey Bartender chip?
So I got to do a promo. You guys want this chip? You go to any bar, you flip it over, you can get somebody to pay for your drink. Because we got an iconic guest. We got Anthony, a Beatle expert. I'm going to ask him about the fake Paul McCartney, if Paul McCartney died.
It actually will come up. It will come up in the making.
We got a lot of shit for you, because let me tell you, Mike does the show. He got another question. We got another question. We'll bring you in because you're a huge Beatles fan. So who else better than...
Well,
hey, Anthony,
I'll do my best.
Hey Bartender podcast. How did that show do? Because I put on my thing and it did very good. The video did very good. You did very good when you were on the show. So we got over 1,000 download on YouTube. So the show did very good for us.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Anybody ever tried peanut butter whiskey?
I've
heard a lot about it. I've never.
I just broke it open tonight, first time. It's pretty damn good.
Really? I've only heard about it. I've never tried it myself.
I wasn't sure. I said, let me try it for the hell of it. So I bought a bottle. It's pretty damn good.
Anthony, I gotta tell you, you got a great voice for podcast because your voice is so well known. Like when I hear the Hey Bartender, I told you got a great voice, just like Mike. And we have a lot of shit going on, and between the conspiracy, between the RockerMike and Percent and the Rock Show, but you're the Beetle guy, man. How do you, Mike? Should I let him start the podcast? How you want to start this?
Well, we're going to be talking about the making of the Beatles' White Album. Now, this was
Red Album.
Yep, and this was for a long time. It was my favorite Beatles album. It's still up there. I kind of lean towards Revolver these days, but
Revolver's a great album.
Yeah, but the White Album was very important. Now it was there. We'll get into this, and then Anthony, if you ever want to interrupt and jump in, say something, go ahead. But before I start, where do you stand with this album in your Beatles history?
In my Beatles history, it's honestly not on the very top of my list. I mean, like you guys said, my favorite Beatle album changes annually. I mean, right this month, I'm particularly on Rubber Soul.
Wow,
but that's a great album. Rubber Soul is a great fucking album. Holy shit!
But I grew up. My earliest childhood memories was listening to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band with my dad on the record player. But the White Album has had some very important songs and incredible history when it came to what the Beatles were doing and what it was, how it came about. And I picked up a lot, some trivia here and there. I had a really good friend who I used to be roommates with, who was big on British rock, so he knew everything about the Beatles. Right. And I picked up some stuff along the way. It's a very interesting album. Very eclectic, I think, is the way.
Eclectic's a good word. Yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say all over the place in a negative way, but it is all over the place in style.
You know what? To me, this was not a boy band. This wasn't the Beatles when they first show up in the U.S. This was the Beatles that we're going to separate. We're going our own ways. And to me, that's the way I felt about the album, because there was a lot of individual stuff. And that's what I thought, because one of my favorite songs is on this album. As My Guitar Gently Weep is one of my favorite fucking songs.
Me too.
In the whole album. I love that. So I can play that 100 times. And to me, that's one of the greatest songs. And George Harris, to me, when Prince did the tribute to him and he went off on his guitar playing this song, to me, that was one of the greatest thing ever. And
remember Clapton did the solo. Eric Clapton.
Yeah,
originally on their White Album recording.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but then when Prince did that recording, you see Prince recording where Eric Clapton somebody said, "Oh, Eric Clapton, you might be one of the greatest," and he said, "Nah, the greatest guitarist is Prince." Eric Clapton's called Prince the greatest guitar, but in the original version called. But dude, that guitar song, that song is such a great song.
It is a beautiful song.
Yeah. Actually, when I saw that footage of him playing at one of the tributes to George Harrison, I had no idea he was that good of a guitar player until I saw that footage. And
Prince was one of these guys that we did a 2-part podcast on him a couple of years ago, but really just unbelievable musician, could play like 50 different instruments fluently. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like very well, and he was a great guitar player, and I think that sometimes in his music, maybe that didn't shine through as far as like when people think about him. I don't know if they think guitar player. I do, because some of the stuff that I like by Prince was really the heaviest stuff, that he did.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, what shirt are you wearing?
I'm wearing the Hey Bartender shirt. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So,
threw it on.
Anthony, let me ask you a weird question. Who was your favorite Beatle?
That's a popular question I used to get all the time when I was in the bar, because I would always talk about the Beatles constantly. Truth being told, when the Beatles were together, coalesced as a group, that was when they were my favorite. I mean, sure, John, all of them had some great moments solo, but the music that they did by themselves never hit me as hard as the stuff that they did together. And that's pretty much where I stand on it. It's almost like I refuse to give a straight answer, like Ringo's my favorite or George is my favorite.
I think your favorite Beatle is Paul McCartney, because after seeing that footage, Paul McCartney came this group together. Think about it. He's the one that made them sure. I hate to say that. To me, Paul
well, by the
McCartney
time Let It Be was being written and recorded, they were already on the verge of breaking up. I mean, the White Album, they were on the verge of breaking up. You know,
right.
So, I mean, it was a slow. Yeah, it was a by the time they did the White Album, I think that they each had all come to their own conclusions that they could get by on their own.
But think about how great that album was. Because this album, people consider this one of the best Beatles. You have Revolver, you got Sgt. Pepper and Lonely Heart Man, which I thought was great. I know most of the songs there, but to me, the White Album was the one that, to me, like they grew up.
Well, they went in a different, Revolver was a different direction. Sgt. Pepper would kind of be an expansion on that. Magical Mystery Tour would be a hodgepodge of that. And then they they didn't want to make a psychedelic record anymore. The White Album is not psychedelic. No, people kind of think it is, but it's not.
It's music.
Okay?
It's music.
Yeah, it's really just a simple. They intentionally, and I'll get into this now. They intentionally stripped things down and wanted to make something less produced than what they had done prior. The last couple of albums. And that's what the White Album is. Now, some people make an argument that it's too long. It should have been one album. There's a lot of filler. I don't think there's any filler on the album per se. I think that you may have gotten 2 albums out of it or whatever, but they had a lot of songs in their back catalog that they needed to get to put out there. That's
most of the songs that they wrote for the White Album were songs that they wrote when they were on their Transcendental
in India.
Their meditation tour.
Maharishi. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I read actually earlier today that George actually got mad at Paul because Paul was using the meditation as inspiration for writing music, and George was like, "Why aren't you just meditating?" And Paul, excuse me for breathing. But
that was
while they were on tour.
Yeah,
while they were on tour with Maharishi, they were just wrenching out the songs,
right?
And
they were writing about what they were seeing too. And some of those songs, I'll go into each of the 30 songs, and we'll talk about a little background on each one, and we can give opinions or whatever. But let's get this moving.
Are you ready for this 30 songs? We're going to talk about 30 songs.
Well, there's going to be a background before I even talk about that. So,
So let's start with the first song.
Hopefully you took a pee before you started. Okay, so.
I did 3 lines in the bathroom before I started, so I'm good. and then after this, I gotta go see Christina. So I'm already beat up.
Oh shit!
And tell Christina I said hi. Make sure you tell her.
I told her that you would come out and say you guys are great. She said she loved the podcast. We're all of us talking.
Yeah. She told me she watched it. Yeah. So all right. So making of the
Boogie Lives. Boogie watches 3 times.
Boogie Lives.
Of course, you got to mention Boogie Lives.
Boogie Lives.
All right, let's go, Mike. Let's start.
All right.
Let's talk about this great album.
All right, so making of the Beatles White Album. Now, this album was released on November 22nd, 1968. It was the 9th studio record, and it was the only double album by the Beatles, okay? Technically now, what some people forget, too, is it's really not called the White Album. It's called The Beatles. Right. It's just a self-titled album. That's all you see. You look at it, the white cover, The Beatles. And but because it had that white cover within immediately of being released, it became known as the White Album. Now, 19 out of the 30 songs used on the album were written in Rishikesh, India, okay, while the band was involved with the Transcendental Meditation course with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, okay? bunch of people were on that. Donovan was on that little tour, a bunch of other people. Mia Farrow's sister, Prudence, which we'll get into.
And Mia Farrow, yeah.
Right. I think Mia also, yeah. Now
they mentioned Mike Love from the Beach Boys.
Mike Love from the Beach Boys were on it, and a whole entourage of people. Now, during the time there, they had little access to any Western instruments. They just had an acoustic guitar with them, basically. And the songs were written because of that, really. They were written very simply. The idea was that when they would get around to the arrangements, they would also be simple, less production. They wanted it to kind of be a contrast to what they had done prior, which was Sgt. Pepper, which was very produced, Magical Mystery Tour, and even Revolver to some extent was produced. So also Sgt. Pepper, as you can imagine, was very influenced by LSD. And during this Transcendental Meditation tour, they didn't have any access to any acid. So they were just like smoking weed. That was the only thing they could do. So I'm sure that had some effect on how they were writing. Now, altogether, there were actually 40 songs written for the album. Not all of them were used, but 26 would be recorded in Esher, England, at what was called Kinfons, which was George Harrison's estate where he lived. His house, yeah, he had a recording studio there. They made some rough demos. Basically, the album itself was recorded May 30th through October 14th, 1968, mostly at the Abbey Road studios, and then a few tracks were done at the Trident Studios in London as well. George Martin was once again at the producer helm. He basically, I'll go into it more in a minute, but George Martin was starting to kind of lose a little interest here in the Beatles. By this point, they really didn't need him. What do you think about that, Anthony?
Well, George Martin, the Beatles wanted him around, but he was starting to question their songwriting abilities because the songs that they showed up with were incredibly simple, and he actually tried to encourage them. Let's polish only a few of these up and make one album instead of one big album or two big albums.
Wow. Right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
And this kind of attitude created a lot of friction between him and the band, which we'll go into it a little bit more in a minute. Now, some of the sessions were done at very irregular hours. They kind of were working separately in a lot of ways. The band wasn't always in the same room recording, which was different than the way they had done things in the past. And what they did was they booked a group block of time, okay? And it was open-ended, so they could just come and go whenever they wanted at Abbey Road. The band
Beatles actually made that I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
The Beatles actually made that more popular in the music industry because pre-Beatle, they would give them give the musicians or recording artists bankers hours to come in and record their stuff. But then all of a sudden, the Beatles were like, "I prefer to work at night," and they'd already sold millions of albums, and they're like, if they want to work at night, they're going to work at night.
Yeah, they want to work.
Right.
Well, what they did here is they booked like 2 or 3 studios in Abbey Road at a time for weeks on end.
Mm.
Okay, I mean they had the money to do it, so they did it.
So wait up. So they just booked they could have it wherever they wanted.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, and they would work all hours of the night.
No?
No, not at that time. Not any time, really. Not in their existence. You know,
you could. Hey, you call me at 1 o'clock. I'm sleeping.
No, well, look. I mean, if any musicians out there, and I know many. I mean, you might get an idea at 2:45 in the morning. You know what I mean? Mm. And if the studio's open, you just go down there. But anyway, what they did too that was different with this is they recorded all the rehearsals and jams, and then they overdubbed the good takes, okay, which was something different that really I don't know if anybody really did that.
What do you mean that they overdubbed the good taste? What do you mean by that? What's the
Well, let's say they were working on While My Guitar Gently Weeps, for instance. Okay. Better example, let's say Helter Skelter. Okay. Yeah. They were working on that. They might be working on that song for 7 hours, jamming it, working it, figuring it out. That whole 7 hours would be recorded.
Wow.
Then they would go back and listen to it and take the best parts from it. And then if they found something that worked, maybe it was just a little primitive, needed some overdubbing, then they would go and overdub on top of that. Okay. So they really, it was almost a cut and paste kind of thing, which was new to the time. It's done now, but it was different then.
George Martin was very good about razor blade editing. I mean, you just you have a good take here. This spot is good in this take here, but I like this spot better from this take. So you just use a razor blade, cut the audio tape, and then tape it together and then run it through.
They had done it. On that. They had done it prior to the White Album with Magical Mystery Tour with Strawberry Fields. That was a famous spliced. It was really 2 songs that they put together to make one. So that kind of stuff in the late 60s was in its infancy. Okay.
Mike, hey, Anthony, Mike, you know what I noticed about them? There's a lot of songs that started a certain way and then take another angle. I was thinking, well, did they start a 2 song and then they just took the thing from another verse and put it to the song?
They had different songs or different versions of one song, and they might take 3 and take 63, okay, and put them together. All right, and that's how they came up with it.
You can hear that in the White Album a lot. I hate to say that, but you can. When you listen to that song that they go from here to there, you're like, what the fuck?
Well, not only did they do that.
It sounds great, but holy shit.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you figure that shit out?
That's I mean, the Beatles. I mean, they're just the Beatles. We were watching the documentary. I mean, how did he pull Let It Be out of his ass? Okay. You just watching it, you're like, oh my God, But what they were doing was really avant-garde in a lot of ways. Okay. And do you agree, Anthony?
Describe it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes that was really obvious with stuff like Revolution No. 9. Okay. But even in simpler songs, when you do notice that little change, that little break, that little difference, that was them doing that too. And that's the magic of that album, really, I think.
Let me tell you, I think this is a fantastic 2 double album. Like all the song work from Happy Birthday, Revolution to everything. I mean, this is it's like a continuance of great music. They knew what to pick in order. Like you listen to this one song, you go to the other song. It's like a great order. I think by the end you're like, what the fuck am I listening to? Because that last song, it's like, where am I? I thought I was tripping on acid, or I was like, how much drugs did I do? Because by the end of it, this is a new cast. What the hell's going on? But this is how great this. Like to me, this is one of my favorite Beatles albums because it starts with a journey. You start with the first song, Back to the USAR, The Apartments. You go through. They're taking you on a magical journey. They're taking you almost a journey because every song that they put in the order makes sense, and they all worked on it. Some people worked on themselves, but it's a great fucking. Like if this was your final work, you fucking accomplished what you wanted to do, and then everybody went their separate ways, which is a great tribute to what the Beatles did.
Well, a lot of my bar customers, when we talk about what our favorite Beatle album was, like we discussed in the beginning of the show, they would always. There was one guy that impressed me because he brought up that with the White Album, that was his all-time desert island album. If he was stuck on, that was the one that he wanted because he described it as having multiple different genres of music. You're not stuck with just rock and roll. No. You got blues, you got a little bit of country, you got, and he enjoyed that factor. And the Beatles getting different, taking different directions with different songs, kind of opened it up quite a bit.
Very true. Very true. I mean, you said it in the beginning when you said eclectic. It is very eclectic. You got country, you got blues, bluegrass. Okay.
I was amazed by that so much.
Yeah. I mean, and like even like Obla Di Bla Da is like almost like a ska record in a way. Okay.
I love that song.
I read that earlier to prepare for this. I read they called that a ska track, and I was like, ska didn't exist back then.
well, no, it did. Sure, it did. Ska was around since the early '60s. Okay, so it would morph into rock steady and then reggae. But by they had to be aware of it.
I always think ska is reggae. To me, ska came out
a little different.
Reggae.
It's a different beat.
It's almost the same thing.
Reggae came out of ska.
I still think that reggae got it right. I hate ska music. I love reggae music.
Well, that would actually explain. That would actually explain. I ran into an MP3 years ago of a bootleg of a No Doubt concert, and one of their covers that they did at the end of the show, to pay tribute to the people that influenced them. They actually played Obla Di Obla Da, and like, I listened. You listen to it, and I'm like, they nailed it. They did a great job of it.
It's just that it's that beat. It's the same time signature as a ska song. Okay, I don't think of it as a ska song, but it kind of is. Okay,
but Anthony, can I tell you? I saw them live. I saw No Doubt in a very small space in New York City live. My ticket was like $15, and they fucking rocked the roof out of that. And they played everything. It was like this little girl. I said, "Who the fuck is this bitch?" But she rocked it out. By the end of it, I had so much respect for No Doubt. And they did the Beatles, and I had no idea why they did that, but they did a fantastic version of it, which it blew my mind. It's like, holy shit, these guys are really good. It was amazing to watch them. And it was like, who the hell are these guys? No Doubt. The next thing I saw, they got Spotted Web. I'm like, oh my God, I saw these guys in a small venue for $15. That's, if you live in New York, you saw a lot of bands that you would pay like very little amount of money, but you see this great band. Like, I see so many bands for so cheap dollars, and then I see them live. I'm like, holy shit. It's amazing. That's what when we had a lot of venues, that's what New York City was. You had Max's Kansas City, you had CBGB, so people would just go out and play music, and then years later, you're like, I saw this guy for $15 or $5. Mike, you know what I'm talking about. It's incredible.
Oh, totally. So many bands.
Like, fucking rock stars.
I mean, I saw Guns N' Roses at CBGB's. All right. So, think of that. And then the Ritz was another spot that would always have up and coming bands.
Dude, think about it. We saw the Misfit in Madison Square Garden that people were paid. People were paid nothing. And we went to the Misfit show in Madison Square Garden, and there was 20,000 fans singing Halloween.
Yeah, I know. That was amazing. All right,
a lot of the covers, a lot of Beatle covers that people do, because in my opinion, you've got to be very careful if you cover a Beatles song, because people will scrutinize you.
Oh yeah,
no matter what.
That's why most people don't do it. Most people don't try it. Yeah, it's almost not worth it.
A lot of the people that I hear do Beatle covers, actually, if I think about it really hard, a lot of the covers came from the White Album, because I've heard Billy Joel do Back in the USSR.
Oh yeah.
U2 doing Helter Skelter. That was famously on their Rattle and Hum album.
Remember that?
And
that's actually a great album, the Rattle and Hum album.
Yeah, but. Yeah, maybe just because the album speaks to so many different people instead of just one particular genre. No, they pretty much shed the whole bubblegum boy band thing.
I think they already had, but I think that really pushed it away. That made it like you said, Rob, in the beginning, that this is like that when they grew up. Okay,
dude, when that YouTube Helter Skelter, I thought the Beatles was great, but I got to tell you, YouTube did a great job with that fucking song. Especially for the movie, that was great, man. especially Bono. And I hate to say that I hate Bono. I hate you too. But their rendition, Helter Skelter, was pretty fucking good.
Well, listen, a broken clock is right twice a day. All right,
Anthony, what do you think of that version that you two did?
I enjoyed it. My sister owned the Rattle and Hum vinyl when it first came out, and she listened to it quite a bit. And when they announced, Charlie Manson's took this song and we're taking it back, and I was really young at the time, so I didn't really understand at the time what they were talking about. But I grew up, and after hearing a lot of stories and research and stuff like that, I started to understand.
all right. So getting back, okay, we got a long show here.
So, we started with the first song.
I don't want to talk about you two anymore. All right. So anyway, 16 of the 30 tracks on the album only feature the whole band. That's how they recorded this. They were separate a lot. So really only half the album is all four of them playing at the same time. Now, one thing they did different too was this was the first time they used an 8-track recording system. Okay.
Wow.
At Abbey Road prior to that was a 4-track. But when they started doing these sessions, they discovered that there was an 8-track sitting around that just hadn't been set up yet. So they were somewhat familiar with 8 tracks because Trident Studios had one. So they said, you got to set this up. And anytime there were any changes in the recording studio, the Abbey Road would give a hard time. They didn't want any changes until like things were experimented with and whatever. But they just said, frick that. We're setting up this new system. We're going to record on this 8-track. So at Abbey Road, the very first thing ever recorded on their 8-track was this album.
You have to admire that because nowadays, all these bands, they have multiple tracks. I mean, almost endless.
32, 64 is nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're using all of them, 32, 64 tracks. But the Beatles, when they did Sgt. Pepper, only 4 tracks.
4 tracks. And to do all that overdubbing, and I mean, really, you had to get it right the first time. That was it.
It was impressive, man. It was impressive.
Yeah. Now, George Martin, I kind of mentioned this before. His influence with the band was starting to wane during this production. So he would be in and out of the studio. He wasn't always there. But he left most of the sessions to his young protege, a guy named Chris Thomas. They kind of put him in charge of the production. Now, the band held their first and only 24-hour recording session at Abbey Road during the final mixing of the album, which was in October of '68. Now, this session was attended by John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Martin. Harrison had left on a trip to the U.S., and Ringo was around if they needed him, but he wasn't there. Okay. So they, for 24 hours, really, Lennon and McCartney, who could play anything. They could play drums. They could play bass. Yeah. Okay. They could play guitar, overdub guitars, things like that. That's what they really only needed to be there. But Martin was putting the final touches, of course, on it too. Now, unlike most LPs, there was no customary 3-second gap between the songs. Okay. And when they edited this, the songs segued into each other. And if you listen to it, they do. They kind of fade out, fade back in. They might be a little piece of music in between for a couple of seconds, and it goes right into the next song. There's no gap. And that really was, I don't know if anybody had ever done that before. If they did, it definitely wasn't a well-known band like the Beatles, but I can't think of anybody before the White Album that had done that. That's something that would become popular with a lot of punk bands. Like the Ramones did that. They would segue right into the next song. Nobody really was doing that.
Concept albums. There was a lot of concept albums around that time, like Tommy.
By '68, I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess you're right. Alice Cooper would do that in the early '70s. He would segue right into the next one a lot.
Anthony, when you listen to like that White Album, like it went from one song to another. It's like they picked the songs in order because this song would go with that song. And like, how many times can you see that? And as we listen to this album, it moves like it's like a great. It's like a river. It's a great flow from.
Well, it has to flow.
Yeah, from the first
Right.
album to the second album, it flows. It's just good, and you can listen. You can sit down, smoke a joint, and listen to the album, the whole album, both album, and you'll be like, "Wow, is it over already?" Because it seemed like, to me, when I listen to this album, it doesn't seem that long. It's like 30-something songs.
Yeah, some of the segues between songs worked really well together. I mean,
Yeah.
back in the USR to Glass
Fantastic,
Onion.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
but
fantastic, great
there were-
sample.
But
And-
when it goes from I don't remember right offhand which song is before, but right before While My Guitar Gently Weeps, it almost seemed like it was just boom right into While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yeah, it's
And
yeah.
what to happiness is my one gun.
Yeah, happiness is a warm gun. Whoops, now I'm dark.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, While My Guitar, right. No, Bungalow Bill goes into While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
No, I mean the next song, which is happiness is a one gun.
After, yeah.
Yeah, but that whole thing where my guitar gently whip, and then you go to that, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's, like,
I know.
it's really weird, but it's still
one of-
fantastic.
Yeah, it still works.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah,
works
totally
anyway.
does. And the sequencing was perfect. You know, they spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. Now, George Martin said off the bat that he was against making a double album. And he suggested that they make one album of all the strongest songs that they had, okay? Because he felt a lot of things were kind of like filler. But the band didn't agree, and they refused that. And years later, Harrison would kind of suggest that maybe that should have happened. Okay, they could have used some of the songs as B-sides or even withheld a few that he felt maybe were a little weak. But in the end, really, you know, he supported the double album at the time. Now, Ringo is interesting. His comments on it. He said that they should have made two albums out of it. One called the White Album and one called the Whiter Album.
I've never heard that.
That's just Ringo. That's Ringo being Ringo, you know.
Yeah,
Now,
he's got all the good jokes.
and here's how I feel about it. I agree with McCartney with this because he's always held firm to the idea it was great the way it is. And his quote with it was, "Listen, it was great. It sold. It's the bloody Beatles White Album. Shut up." So I kind of agree with him with that. You're not, 50 years later, 53 years later, you're going to look at it and go,
Mike, the only reason you agree with that because he was already dead.
He was dead for 2 years already.
That was his fucking. That was the guy that took over his role. Anthony, what do you think about this thing about Paul McCartney died? This guy Billy, whatever, took over. Billy Prescott, whatever, took over his thing. Have you heard this? That there's two Paul McCartney.
Of course, he's heard it. Yeah,
the Paul McCartney is dead is one of the most well-known urban legends of rock and roll.
Yeah,
I mean, they've been talking. They said that there was a hint in the Sgt. Pepper album cover. There was a hint in the Abbey Road cover. And people spot
there's hints on this album. I'll go into that. Okay. Yeah. Now, during these recording sessions, the Beatles began to kind of assert themselves individually as artists, and
so what are the hints about Paul McCartney? Are you going into that?
I'm going to go into that in a couple of minutes. They began to find themselves kind of at odds with each other, and recording engineer George Emmerich, who'd been with them since Revolver, walked out of these sessions. He says, "I can't work with these guys anymore because all they do is bicker back and forth." All right, so he was annoyed. Now, the White Album sessions also marked the first time that Yoko Ono made an appearance. She first showed up during the recording of Revolution #1, and right after that, she was a constant presence for every Beatle recording after that. Okay, any album.
Yeah.
Now,
A lot of people they talk about that. I mean, because John and Yoko they were in the beginning of their new relationship, and so they wanted to be together constantly.
yes.
The other guys did understand that, but they were like, "She's sitting on my amp. Would you do something about that?"
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, I'll be honest with you, I think by the time, like in the Get Back documentary with Let It Be, this would be a full year already after, with this going on constantly. Okay, they made the White Album with her around, and then now they're making Let It Be. So in some sense, they were probably used to it, but when this first happened, this had to be a problem. It had to be right away, like
it had to be a huge problem.
Yeah, because I think what the main problem was, definitely in the beginning, maybe it worked itself out a little bit a year later, but was that with her being there, John and Paul couldn't talk, and John and Paul needed to talk. They needed to work out.
You need Billy. Billy needed to talk to John, not Paul. Bill. Bill needed to talk.
Oh, shut up. the fucking Paul is dead shit.
I'm waiting for you to get into that. What is it?
Listen, when I get into the songs, I'll explain how some of these songs have hints.
There's a lot of things that prove that fucking Paul died.
Nah.
Jesus Christ.
Is this a conspiracy show or is this a rock show? What is it?
That's a lawyer that wrote a book about.
I know. Look, there's people that swear that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, but
well,
I got.
You mentioned John and Yoko. You brought Yoko into the story, which it's relevant at this point.
Yeah.
One interesting thing that I overheard was that the original concept album that John wanted for the cover of the White Album is both him and Yoko on the cover, stark naked. I mean, nothing.
You mean John and Yoko, not Paul and Yoko.
Just
John.
Just John and Yoko on the cover, just completely naked. And I guess the other guys were like, "Okay, come on."
Yeah. Well, that's when they would do the Two Virgins album. Okay, that would come out. That would come out like right before the White Album.
But guys, I got to talk to you. When I was watching the documentary on Disney Plus, and this fucking Yoko Ono was there all the time. She was to the point that she was opening up mail. I would have been like, "Bitch, can you go away while we fucking try to play this fucking music? You go suck a dick, put a fucking tomato up your ass?" But we're trying to talk to each other, right? Now get the fuck out of here. And she's just there sitting, opening mail, being a hey.
Major distraction.
Do you know what we did to the
That's
Japanese?
what she was.
Yeah. Do you know what we did to the Japanese? Would you like to join them? Go sit over there, you fucking idiot. Before we Hiroshima your ass. Fucking woman was sitting there. If I was part of the band, if I was Paul, I'd say, "Honey, you need to walk away because we're making music. You're not part of the music." Now she's a wrinkle off fucking Prune, and we still got to talk about fucking Yoko Ono. Fuck her. That's just my opinion.
Oh, we know. That's a Rossi rant in the middle of a rock show.
But dude, she was just there. I would have been like, "Honey, can you leave?" Dude, that's to me. That shit, while watching the fucking documentary, that shit fucking rattled me. I would have told this bitch to get the fuck out.
It had to be
distracting. What are you doing there? Why are you sitting there?
It had to be. Look, I mean, by the time they did the documentary, that was a year later. Then they were still talking about it. It had to be so hard at the beginning, her being there. But McCartney's girlfriend was in and out, but she didn't sit
Linda
there.
Linda was showing up. Yeah.
No. No, not Linda. He wasn't with Linda then. What's her name?
Mary. Let It Be sessions.
Mary something. I forget her name. But who he was with before Linda was at the White Album sessions. But she would just be in and out. She didn't stick around. Okay, but look, it's all in the history now. I mean, I wouldn't want her there, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason that, I said before that Paul and John really had to have this open communication, and that was kind of messed up because of Yoko being there, is because both of them started to dislike each other's songs at this time. All right. And John was thinking like, Paul, you're just making these like sweet little vanilla bland songs, which I gotta hand it to him. He's probably right. And then Paul would say, you're just making songs that are like deliberately provocative and deliberately unmelodious, no melody at all. Okay, in what you're saying, you're just screaming or whatever. Okay, and I think he was right too. And they had to keep that lines of communication so they can come up with something, and that was broken right away with Yoko being there. So anyway, on August 20th, Lennon and Ringo Starr were working together on the overdubs for Your Blues. Great track. They were in Studio 3 at Abbey Road. And when they were done, they decided to visit Paul McCartney in Studio 2, who was doing Mother Nature's Song, which was a very personal song. He wrote that whole thing. He's solo on it, basically.
That's a great song.
And he was working in that studio by himself. Well, something happened because some of the sound engineers recollect that, as soon as they all got together in that studio, the tension, you could cut it with a knife. Okay. And that would carry on for about 2 days. And at that point, on August 22nd, they were recording back in the USSR together. And Ringo fucking split. He got pissed off because Paul was criticizing his drumming. And he said, you don't need me. I'm just a side man. You could do the drums yourself. And he left. And he left the Beatles in a sense. Okay.
Yeah. I remember in the Beatles anthology, he talks about it where he just kind of threw up his hands and he says, I'm not doing anything. All the other guys are contributing. I'm not doing anything.
He's sitting around.
He goes over to Paul's office and says, look, I don't feel like I'm a part of the band anymore. I'm going to, it's all you guys. I'm just going to leave. And then Paul looks at him and says, I thought it was you. And then he goes to John's office and he says the same thing. I don't feel like I'm part of the band. It's all you guys. And then John says, well, I thought it was you three. Yeah. And same thing over with George. Yeah. And that's what caused him to say, forget it. I'm going on holiday. I'll see you when I see you.
Well, it went on for a bit and they pleaded with him to come back. They had some meetings, he didn't come back, but then finally he agreed to come back. And when he did, by that point, it was into September. And when he came, George had put like all these flowers all over his drum kit, like as a gesture, a nice gesture.
And he received tons of telegrams too, saying, please come back. You're the best drummer in rock and roll.
Yeah.
We love you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think, what I find interesting is I don't think that ever made the press.
No, not really.
They managed to keep that quiet for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. You think about it.
Mike, was this the time where fucking George Harrison just took his guitar and said, "Fuck it, I'm not dealing with that"?
This was the album before that, a year earlier.
So this is something that was building up. They're always having problems already.
The White Album was when they started to break up. That's the way you got to look at it. That's when they started to have problems.
If you look at most of the recording of the White Album, none of them did it together. They just did the one song that was together, but most of the songs they were separated.
Yeah, well, they didn't record like that in the past. They all recorded together, and that was a difference, and it just showed in their personalities at that point. By the time the White Album came out, I think they all thought that they all had something to contribute, and they all should be heard. But the relationship really was that Lennon and McCartney were the primary songwriters.
Yeah.
And I think that, George and Ringo, I think they had a legitimate beef. I mean, you look at the stuff that George had going into his solo career. I mean, everything on. He puts out a triple album. I mean, he had a ton of music when he left the band, and all that stuff.
Yeah, when he was with the band, band, he only got one song per side, maybe. And,
yeah. Which is the White Album. He's got a few. Okay, but you're right. He was limited. They didn't take him seriously, so he had a beef, and Ringo too. And Ringo was just a solid drummer, dependable. Sat there and took it, but by the time this happened, he was tired of it. So one difference too is that in the United States, mono records were being phased out. In the 60s, you had albums come out in stereo and mono. But by 68, mono was starting to be phased out. And this was the first album to be recorded in stereo and released only that way in the United States. Right. It was released in mono in other countries. And eventually, many years later, in 2009, it would get like a proper mono release in that famous Beatles in mono box set, which if you ever have about $300, $400 to throw away, you should buy it. Okay, it's definitely worth it. I'll tell you why. There's only one reason. Okay, in the Lemmy documentary, Lemmy from Motorhead, the Lemmy documentary in the very beginning of the movie, he's in a record store going through shit, and then he had it on order, and he goes to pick it up at the counter, and he's looking at it, the Beatles in mono, and he's like, "That's the only way to listen to this band." And
wow,
I mean, do you have to say anything else? Okay, Lemmy said so.
So all right, change in the record industry. Another change in the record industry that I found interesting was this was also around the time where they stopped releasing other songs as singles. They were just releasing the tracks that were on the main album as singles instead of alternate songs. I mean, Hey Jude was probably their last official single that wasn't on an album. And they started releasing, like back in the USSR, Obla Di Obla Da, and all those songs as singles. But the record industry just decided to stop doing that.
Well, it was more of Anthony, it was more of a British thing. Okay. The British felt that you should never release a single that's on an album. That was like a rule almost. If you look at that's why EPs were popular, like with the Kinks and the Beatles and the Stones and stuff. Like they would put other things out, like you're saying. Okay. The United States, they did that too, but I think they did put singles out that were on albums probably before the Brits did that.
Wow.
Going back into the early 60s when LPs started to be more important.
Right.
I think in America you had more of, and not always, because there were a lot of American bands that would put non-album singles out. But in my experience with things, I found it was more of a British thing. And then that was actually in the record companies wanted that. They felt that the public wouldn't buy it twice. You know what I mean?
They wouldn't buy it twice. It's like there's people that then play the song. Why would you play the same song twice?
But Americans did it. The record would come out on a single and you go buy the album and it's also on there too. I mean,
probably for the benefit of disc jockeys.
Yeah, probably. That's true. All right, so let's get into the songs individually here, okay? We got 30 songs to cover.
That's an outrage.
First song, side one, Back in the USSR. Okay, great song to kick the album off with. Technically, it's almost a parody of Chuck Berry's Back in the USA. The backing vocals by John and Paul are done like Beach Boys style. And in fact, when it was written, Mike Love, while on the trip to India, when they wrote the song, suggested that they mention girls of the USSR in particular. Okay, so they threw that in there. Now, the track was actually bootlegged like crazy in the Soviet Union at the time. The Beatles were banned from their music was not allowed in that country. So
that's an outrage.
Yes. So most Western acts were banned. So it turned out to be like a huge underground hit anyway. Everybody heard it,
Right.
you know.
The thing that I always love is that song's coming on because you hear the plane
Yes.
enter.
And you hear it a couple of times in the song, actually. Yeah.
And then at the end of the song, it exits.
It exits.
I loved that.
Yes. Very cool. Very cool. Just
That's
a cool
great.
song.
That is a very cool song.
The next track would be Dear Prudence. And I always thought this was a great segue. I think you mentioned that earlier between the two. This was recorded at Trident Studios. It wasn't recorded at Abbey. And the song was about Mia Farrow's sister, Prudence Farrow, who was on that Transcendental Meditation tour and didn't leave her room at all because she was so dedicated to meditation. She didn't leave her room in the hotel. So that's, they wrote that about her. Now, the next track is Glass Onion.
It was John's way to try to coax her out of the tent. I mean,
he was probably trying to get in her pants,
Yeah, you never know.
Probably. I bet anything he was. But Glass Onion is the next track. Glass Onion is the third song. And that was fully completed during Starr's brief departure from the band during that time. The lyrics, this is what I wanted to mention to you, Rob, okay? The lyrics, the walrus was Paul, okay? And then I told you about the fool on the hill, a reference to another Beatles song, okay? They put that in there. Those lyrics were deliberate because they knew that people were looking for messages in their music. So they stuck that in there just to fuck with everybody. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think they would do that, but they did that.
I mean, they were hearing about, people looking for secret messages in your music. But
why not? Let's give them something.
Give them something, right? So the next track would be Obla Di Obla Da. And that was written by Paul. Okay. And it was kind of an ode to ska music. We talked about this earlier. And the track actually took a long time to complete because Paul wanted it to be absolutely perfect. He was really obsessed with this song. And unfortunately, Lennon hated the song off the bat. John Lennon hated this song. He called it granny music. Okay. Or granny music shit, actually, it's for the right quote. Okay.
That's awful.
McCartney loved it so much he wanted it to be a single off the album, but the band said no. Okay. And, I thought about that and I said, it never was a single. It never was.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
No.
But it was a single. Even though it didn't sell, it was a single.
It became a hit, but
because everybody used
the radio played the shit out of it, right?
Go down on me. Yeah. Don't let your son go down on me.
What are you singing? You're not singing Old Blood Deep right now.
John?
You're singing, what are you singing?
Elton John, don't let the sun go down on me. Oh my D, oh my God. Same rhythm.
I don't know.
You'll
look up. You'll look up.
It's almost like what they did when Paul McCartney did that one song. What was it that he went to court when George Harrison did that song? He went to the
My Sweet Lord. My Sweet Lord.
Yeah.
Dude, if you listen to Don't Let the Sun Go on Me and Or I D or like that, same beat.
Okay.
Listen to it.
I'm gonna listen to it tonight. I'm gonna try to hear that.
What the hell was say about Elton John?
Listen.
Down on them?
How about I meet you? How about I meet you at Doc's with Christina? We'll have a few shots and then we'll listen to both songs, and we'll figure it out.
Not tonight. It's an outrage. But I do love that song. That's a great. I love that song. That's one of my favorite songs on this album.
So the next track would be Wild Honey Pie. And that was recorded August 20th, 1968. And that's a track that was put together through brief snippets of songs.
Yeah.
Little pieces of things. And they made one track out of it basically for the album.
That totally sound like that. Like it was like you can
I'll be honest with you, I never liked the song. I'll be honest with you. I never did. I felt it. If anything was close to filler, it was that one.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? It's a double album. You got to go with it. But
I did like the next song. I thought that song.
Bungalow Bill is all right. That was written by John Lennon after one of the American visitors on that Transcendental Meditation tour decided to leave to go hunt tigers. Okay, he thought that was interesting. So,
how weird is that? I want to meditate, but I want to kill a bunch of fucking lions and tigers.
See, I started noticing on the White Album the lyrics in the last two songs we mentioned, Wild Honey Pie and Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill.
Yeah.
It started to feel like that they didn't put a lot of thought into the lyrics. It was just, hey, Bungalow Bill, just over and over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of issue with that.
Anthony,
I could see.
They just kept going in a repertoire. They just keep.
I could see how George. I could see how George Martin would have a problem with that song. It doesn't seem like it fits. But
yeah,
they had a concept with this. And it works. Now the next track.
But what else, Mike? You're George Martin had a fucking 5 and 6. He probably say, "You guys are idiots. You put these songs on a fucking album?
Yeah.
What the fuck's wrong? Come on, let's talk."
I'm sure he called him. I'm sure he called him a bunch of cunts. I'm sure he did.
Yeah, a bunch of cunts. That's what it was. But we talk about,
to use a British term.
This is one of my favorite songs of the whole album. That song, "On My Guitar," is like one of the most. I play that for Molly because that was Molly.
Yeah. Molly loved that song.
To me, this song is one of the best songs on the whole album. As my guitar, like this song is like when George
I think it's my top 5. I think it's in the top 5 best Beatles songs altogether out of any of them. All the albums.
When George Harrison died, and they played this song, like wow.
Yeah.
This song blew my mind. Oh, what are you saying? Sorry, Anthony.
No problem. While My Guitar Gently Weeps is pretty much where I thought George Harrison finally came into his own with his
Absolutely.
I mean, the stuff that he did from that point on was just great stuff. I'm not knocking the early stuff, but and even the stuff he did on the sitar. I'm not knocking that stuff, but that really felt like, okay, now he's become the songwriter. That he
absolutely.
Dude,
110%.
This is where he got his balls back from fucking Paul and fucking John. Fucking George said, "Fuck you. I got my balls back. I'm gonna write this song.
Well,
if you don't like it, go fuck yourself."
Let me explain a little about the song because I'll prove you right.
Yeah.
I'll prove you right. Okay, because what happens is that song was written originally while he was visiting his parents one day. Okay, and he recorded an acoustic version of it right away, and I think in July, a good couple of months before they started recording. Now, he showed it to the Beatles, and they worked on it, and there was a version that came out that kind of like an early version of them doing it that he wasn't happy with it. He said it needs something, so he thought about it, and he said, "I'm going to ask my friend Eric Clapton to come and play on this song."
Wow.
Now, Clapton really was like, I don't know, man. I can't guess on a Beatles album. He couldn't. And George, this is where you're right, Rob, because George says to him that basically it's not anybody's decision but his because it's his song.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think it was ever an issue for Clapton to be on that. Okay. Whatever hesitation there was, it was in Clapton's head, but Harrison reassured him. Okay. So he goes and he does this amazing guitar track, and they put this what was called automatic double tracking effect on it. Okay. And that's how you get that. The guitar almost sounds like it's weeping.
Yeah.
If you listen to it. Okay.
Anthony and Mike, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
When you listen to George Harrison solo album, the triple album, there was a bunch of songs there that could have easily be in the White Album. Yes or no?
All Things Must Pass.
In the Let It Be movie,
absolutely.
Yeah, you even see in the Let It Be movie, there's a couple songs that he ended up using on All Things Must Pass.
Isn't it a pity?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even know
they were working on. They were working on. Isn't it a pity?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that ended up on All Things Must Pass. You're right, but you're right, Rob. They, he got his balls with that song. Really, he was gonna I'm doing it my way. Okay.
He needed to, because to me, Paul was a great songwriter, but the best second songwriter was George, and he got shitted on because he was George. He just took it, and that's why he was so frustrated with the.
He was the quiet Beatle, but didn't last forever.
No, the quiet Beatle was Ringo. He did whatever the fuck he did. He laughed all the way to the bank.
That's kind of true.
Quiet Beatle.
Yeah. Now, one thing to know is that the guitar that Clapton used when he was done, and I wish I knew what kind of guitar it was. I don't know.
It was a Gibson Les Paul.
Was it a Les Paul? Okay, good. Thank you.
I knew that.
He gave it to Harrison. So it was never played again on anything as far as I know. And later on, Harrison named it Lucy.
Wow.
Okay. So now the next track is a classic. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
One more real quick thing about While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yep.
On the anthology album, they did use the acoustic version just to show that, show different demos and stuff.
Where it came from.
Beatles doing it. Yeah. But I really appreciated the way they used it on that Cirque du Soleil Beatles Love album, where they used that instead of the original or the White Album version.
Good. Yes.
Because it fit better into their vision of how the Beatle music should be used for the show.
True.
But wait up, didn't Eric Clapton and George Harrison change wife?
Yes.
Yeah, Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton wrote Layla in honor of George Harrison's wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, guys. Let's talk about.
Well,
some shit went on.
Well, I will say this: it was the trip to India that changed Harrison's life, because he was the only one that stayed with the Buddhism, and it was the Buddhism that allowed him to not lose his fucking mind that his best friend stole his wife.
Wow.
So there's something to be said for that.
He was still with his wife during the Let It Be session. She showed up there. Yeah.
No, that wasn't. That was 69. I think the wife stealing episode was like early 70s, like 72.
Yeah,
something like that.
You're right.
It was after the Beatles. And it happened over a weekend. It was just he invited Eric over, and on a Friday, and I think by Sunday,
the wife was
George left. George didn't have a wife no more. I mean, that's nuts. But
that's crazy.
Well, she didn't leave. She left George, but she didn't go directly to Clapton. She waited.
She waited a little bit.
Period, as they say.
But it was obvious what had happened.
She went to the rest of the Beatles before she shoots Eric.
I don't know, but it was it was really the Buddhism and his discipline, his mental discipline he was able to get through that. I don't know how I couldn't get through it. I'd pull a gun on you and fucking shoot you,
Well, the way he handled it, and he said, "I'd rather have her go with my best friend than my worst enemy." It sounded like he made peace with it pretty well.
Yeah,
I think he did.
Had to.
I think he did, and they remained friends.
Yeah.
Clapton and him. Yeah. Anyway,
Boyd, he was still friends with her too. So
yeah, they had a relationship. So
there's two things Clapton can never lose. He would have never dropped that baby if it was back in cocaine, and he knew how to take care of your wife.
Oh God! Damn! We're going down a bad road here.
A lot of people are going to shit on me for that comment. That's my comment, and it's not yours, and I'm sticking with it.
All right, so last track on the first album of the double album is "Happiness is a." I'm sorry, the first side of the album is "Happiness is a Warm Gun." Now, this kind of evolved from several different song fragments that Lennon compiled into one song. Now, it took actually 95 takes to get it right.
Yeah.
Jesus
And
Christ.
eventually,
God.
they took 2 good takes and spliced them together. And that's how they got that song.
Wow.
Now, side 2 would start with Martha, My Dear. And, you know,
I love that. I love that song.
typical McCartney song. He
Yeah.
says he got the title from his sheepdog, but the lyrics don't really say that, so I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But okay, all right. Now George Martin, George Martin put George Martin had a brass band arrangement for this track. It was a big production. Now the next track is "I'm So Tired," and that was written during the India trip. Okay, I like this song too. It was written during the India trip when John was having trouble sleeping. And it was recorded at the same session that they did Bungalow Bill. The track ends, now listen, Rob, the track ends with Lennon mumbling, Monsieur, Monsieur, how about another one? Okay, Monsieur, Monsieur, how about another one? This is the thing that if you play backwards, people think it says, Paul is dead, man. Miss him, miss him, miss him.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the thing with the conspiracy there. Paul is dead.
You know how many times I brought up with the conspiracy theory that I think Paul did die and Vinnie Baxter took over? And
I'll be honest with you. I think that's like, when we did the flat earth conspiracy shows, we got shit on. I think if we did that, I think we'd get even more shit on. I think there's more people that believe in flat earth than believe that Paul McCartney's dead, Rob.
Hey, we have an expert with us. We can have Anthony on the Two Pauls, the life of Two Pauls, and I'll bring some questions up. Because, dude, there's a lot of evidence of there's people that has called. There's people in show business that they go up to Paul and they call him Billy, and he's like shake their head. Only if Paul is called Billy. And another thing, Paul's in our order than the rest of them. There's a lot of shit that goes on there. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy. All right, fuck it. I am a conspiracy guy.
Yes.
There's a lot of shit that you put out there.
Own it.
I'm going to own it. And there's a lot of shit they put out there that, hey, when I talked to Vince Russo, he also thinks that Paul is not Paul. It's this guy, Billy, that took over his life. Because supposedly Paul died in a terrible accident. Since they were in America, they replaced him with this other guy that looked just like him. That's all it is.
Yeah.
How true it is, I don't know, but we can talk about this, books about it. We can read. Dude, we can go you want to go to the rabbit hole, all three of us?
We could.
We can get really fucked. And people be like, these guys are lunatics.
Bring a big bottle with us. We'll get right down that rabbit hole.
All right, let's go to
every
the
time
next
I
song.
hear about every time I hear about the whole Paul McCartney conspiracy that he's dead the whole time, I think of the Saturday Night Live sketch with Chris Farley where he's sitting interviewing Paul McCartney and he's like, so you remember that rumor when you were dead? And Paul's like, yeah, I remember that. And he goes, is it true?
Is it true?
Goes, no, I'm pretty sure I'd remember that.
Yeah.
True.
But Anthony, how about when they did the Abbott Road, when they passed it on the street and he has no shoes? They did a lot of things to play with the conspiracy.
They did it on purpose. They did it. They did it to bust people's balls, and I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great.
Paul McCartney. There's alternate pictures of that I've seen of Abbey Road where he was actually wearing sandals.
Yes.
Just that one particular time he decided to walk across the street, he decided to take them off.
Yeah,
but there was the reason they did that is because there's something about being buried with no shoes on or something. I forget if that's a Buddhist thing or what is that. There was some reason that they had him. It was something to do with being buried with no shoes on.
I actually heard
to play with everybody thinking that he's dead.
Yeah. I think they just took it. They're like, fuck it. They think he's dead. Shoot a cover. And
they were just messing. They were messing with people. That's all.
Why not mess with people?
Why not? Why not? Now, anyway, the next track is called Blackbird. That's a famous track off this album. McCartney. McCartney's basically solo playing an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
You can hear a ticking in the background, okay, of that song. And it was always assumed to be a metronome.
That was what it was?
Yeah, but if you ask Emmerich, the sound engineer, he says they got that sound because he mic'd Paul's feet.
Oh, shit.
Okay? He mic'd right next to his foot, so it could be his shoe tapping. Tapping. Yeah. Okay. And I don't know. To me, it's he'd have to have a pretty steady tap. You know, it sounds more like a metronome, but I don't know. It could be. Could be.
Yeah, you're right. It sounded like a machine because that tap is like constant. It's like tap, 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 tap.
What do you think, Anthony?
If you get on YouTube, you can actually find the footage of him playing and recording that song, and his foot is tapping.
Yeah.
Left foot, right foot, left foot. Yeah.
Wow.
I play that song personally, and I have a hard time tapping my foot and trying to remember what chord to play. Interestingly enough, if you ask any guitar store owner, that is one of the most overplayed songs that everybody comes in and plays. They pick up an acoustic guitar and they'll play Blackbird, and everybody plays it.
It's a standard kind of thing. Yeah. Wow. Next track is called
Fairway, you know?
Yeah. Next track is called Piggies, and that was written by George Harrison, kind of as an attack on greed and materialism in society. Actually, John Lennon and George's mother contributed some lyrics to that song. Okay.
No, really.
And Chris Thomas plays the harpsichord, and Lennon does all the pig grunting towards the end that you hear, the pig noises.
Great.
Now, next track is Rocky Raccoon. I actually hate this song. I'm not with you, Rob.
This song.
I hate Rocky Raccoon. Do you like Rocky Raccoon, Anthony?
It starts off interesting. I mean, it sounds like he's kind of mumbling like an old timey story over the guitar.
Yeah.
But then he just talks about Rocky Raccoon finding a Gideon's Bible. You know, I mean,
it's just too many times.
The Gideon's Bible. It's like the Gideon's Bible.
I've always listened to this song because whenever I listen to the White Album, for some reason I tend to listen to the whole thing from beginning to end. And when I get to this, I'm always like, all right, let me go take a piss. Because it's like Rocky, I don't know. It's just not, I don't know. It never moved me.
Mike, I'm going to change your mind right now. When you think of Rocket Raccoon for the Guardians of the Galaxy and Rocky Raccoon, you can feel sympathy in a raccoon. I'm thinking of Rocky Raccoon. It's Rocky Raccoon.
I can't argue with that. I cannot argue with that.
That motherfucker need a Bible more than anybody else.
Damn.
This raccoon is a total lunatic. It's taking people's arm, people's leg. This raccoon is fucked up.
Now,
Rocky Raccoon.
the Rocky Raccoon song actually came out of a jam session between McCartney, John Lennon, and Donovan when they were in Rishikesh on that Indian trip. The song was taped in one single session when they recorded it. George Martin hated this song. He felt that it was total filler and should be left out, and they said, fuck you. So,
dude, they had to be fucking high as fuck to sing this song.
I guess.
Bible, these motherfuckers are fucked up when they did this song. Dude, that'd be like another one of those. Atlantic City, like, the Bible's in the fucking thing.
What are you saying, Anthony? Go ahead.
This is another one of those songs where I didn't think that they were really trying hard lyrically, but for some reason that break in the middle where there's that solo is very refreshing and it feels good.
It's fantastic.
That's part of the song. Yeah. But then it goes back to Gideon's Bible.
Rocky Raccoon.
Yeah, it's just you know. Anyway, but it's not.
You're right. You're right. I love that whole little solo. But then they'll go to the Bible.
Now, if you don't like the song, if you're like me and you don't like the song that much, it's not total torture because the next song is "Don't Pass Me By," which is a great
Ringo's big moment.
Ringo's big. It was actually his first composition for the band. Okay, which I didn't know that until I was doing the research for the show tonight.
He started. Yeah. He got everybody high and took the lyrics and put it together.
Yep.
Ringo was drunk.
It was
Ringo was fucked up, dude.
It was originally called. it was originally called Ringo's Tune. All right, they would change it, but Martin tried. George Martin almost screwed up the song because he composed this kind of like orchestral intro to the song, and they were just like, "No, this doesn't work." Okay, so they got jazz musician Jack Fallon to play that fiddle part. Okay, with the bluegrass kind of part, and I think it's definitely one of the best songs on the album. You know, and totally different from any genre they did. You know, I think
the interesting thing about it was back in the early days of the Beatles, they were giving George and Ringo an opportunity to put at least one song per side, but Ringo, that was the only song that he had "Don't Pass Me By" since their second album.
Yeah, it was around.
I don't know whether it got kept pushed back, or Ringo said it's not ready yet, or what. But it wasn't used until the White Album.
Wow, I did not know
that. So I think he had it since like around '63, and you know, it was in different forms. Okay, but I guess lyrically he had it or whatever. But you know, the way it came out as almost like a bluegrass kind of song, I think was perfect. Okay, right where it was in the album fit.
I think it's fantastic. It's a great song. It's a great thing.
The next track is one of my favorites off the album too. It's called "Why Don't We Do It in the Road," and it was written by Paul in India after he saw two monkeys fucking in the road. Okay, and he thought, well, how come people are so civilized they can't do that?
I guess he never watched Planet of the Apes.
That came out the same year as the White Album. But
you have to admire him. All of a sudden, you have to admire a songwriter to see two monkeys fucking in the middle of the road and thinking, I got an idea for a song.
That's a great idea. Okay, he probably was smoking a little bit. He was a little high. He saw it, Yeah. Now Lennon loved this track. Okay, and he thought that Paul was kind of making a song in his style, in Lennon's style. Okay, and he wanted to play on it, but Paul wouldn't let him play on that song. And it turned out there was a method to his madness. He said it was a tit for tat thing, okay, because they didn't put Paul on Revolution Number 9.
Oh yeah.
But Revolution Number 9 is not really even a song. Like, I wouldn't care if I was on that or not. You know what I mean? To pick that one to be mad about makes no sense. But anyway, the next track is called "I Will," and that was written by Paul McCartney with and it's recorded with John Lennon and Ringo Starr, particularly doing percussion and stuff like that. It's a beautiful ballad. I Will.
I like the Julia song in the
Julia's a very haunting kind of song by John.
It is,
and it was the last track that they worked on for the album, and it features John on acoustic guitar. But this is the only Beatles song he ever performed alone on a recording. Okay, and obviously it's a tribute to his mother, Julia, who died in a road accident. Was it a car accident or she was hit by a car? What was the story with that?
I don't know the story behind that.
I don't know if she was driving or she was hit by a car. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story behind that.
Yeah. He was only like 17 when that happened. Like, I don't even think he had the Quarrymen weren't even together then. It was like before he really got started.
But this is such a great song.
Yeah, great. And if you listen to, I had a mixtape 1,000 years ago that I made, and I recorded Julia with Mother as the next song by John Lennon. Okay, and if it don't bring a tear to your eye, you got no fucking soul. You know what I mean? Because Julia is like he's this singing about his mother, like I miss you kind of thing. But Mother, he's complaining about the relationship. He can't get used to it. And then he complains about his father. In that song too. And it's like that's a powerful song. The two back to back are like amazing. But
it wasn't like dancing, mother.
No, it wasn't like Danzig. No,
Danzig didn't.
But he screams a lot, but he don't sound like evil Elvis, like Danzig.
Yeah. The birthday song. The birthday song is one of the songs that.
Yeah. Birthday starts out side 3. Okay.
You want to hear something funny? Since Disney song from people that sing Happy Birthday, Happy Birthday, Happy Birthday. The Beatles' birthday song is the most popular song to use by plates because they don't really enforce the copyright law. Do you know that? You can't sing Happy Birthday.
Using Happy Birthday, using that traditional Happy Birthday song is incredibly expensive to use in a movie or TV show.
I didn't know that, but you can use the Beatles or you can use Happy Birthday.
So you're saying if you sing Happy Birthday in a movie, you got to pay somebody for that?
Yes.
Big money.
It came out huge. Big
Who
money.
owns it?
I don't know, but there was a whole thing.
Who's that dickhead?
Yeah, it became public domain, I think, in 2010. But the family that owns it is still fighting in court to keep the rights to it.
Yeah.
But if you use the Beatles' birthday, you still got to pay the Beatles.
You still got to pay Sony or
it's
the
a
Beatles.
Lot less.
But
it's a lot less.
But it's a little bit less.
Original birthday party.
That's amazing. I did not know that. Wow. But what's interesting about this song is that it was written by Lennon and McCartney together. They recorded it and wrote it in one night. Okay, during the sessions. And it was inspired by them watching The Girl Can't Help It on TV, which was a movie with Little Richard and stuff like, what was her name? Jane Mansfield and stuff like that in that movie. And McCartney sings the vocal. He tries to sound a little bit like Little Richard, which he does a little bit. Yeah. But I don't know if you know this, Yoko Ono and Patty Harrison, George's wife, they're on backing vocals. That I didn't know. I never heard them on it. I didn't
know that either.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Thank God they put Yoko back in the mix. Otherwise, it would suck.
I'm glad she wasn't just screaming inherently.
She wasn't up front yodeling or something like she does. Yeah. Oh, my God. The next song is called Your Blues. Okay, great track. And that was written in India by John Lennon. Now, despite his meditating and the tranquil atmosphere that they had in India, he still felt unhappy. It's a kind of a sad song in a way. He wrote it in the style of like a lot of British blues acts of the day, like Cream and Jeff Beck, early Fleetwood Mac, that kind of stuff. And, it's I'm trying to remember now in the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, they do it, right? Doesn't John do it?
I think you're right. Yeah.
But it's with who's in that band? It's that
Clapton, Mitch Mitchell.
Clapton, right. Yeah. That's the Dirty Mac band, right? The Dirty Mac.
The Dirty Mac.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such an amazing performance. And what, if you're a Jethro Tull fan or if you're a Black Sabbath fan, it's interesting because you see Tull with Tony Iommi in the band. And it was the only time that he had left Black Sabbath for a second and joined Jethro Tull. Yeah. And they recorded this, Rock and Roll Circus album and movie. And it never gets released, So I never knew that about Iommi until it finally came out years later. You know? I never knew that. But and of course the Lennon stuff is amazing too. Now the next track after Your Blues is Mother Nature's Son. That was written by Paul, also on that India trip, and it was a very personal song. He was alone on this track. He performed it alone, and George Martin did the brass arrangements on it.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask Paul about that song. If I ever was to meet him, like what were you thinking with that track? But he didn't let anybody really get close to it. That was his song.
And Mike, why do you
Yeah.
think they all did separate songs? Was this like the Breaking Up album?
Yeah, this was like we said earlier. This was like we said earlier. This was the beginning of the end of the Beatles, the White Album.
Yeah.
A lot of bands go through that sort of thing where they kind of want to do their own thing, if at least for a few minutes. I mean, most famously, like Kiss, they all decided we want to do our own thing, so they all made their own Kiss albums with their own faces on
full
it.
album.
But and we did a show about that, and it was very unique in the sense that, and then Paul Stanley just turned 70 recently, so happy birthday to him. But it was very unique because they're really not solo albums; they're done under Kiss. Okay, the Kiss logo is in the corner. Okay, it's just this is the Ace album and this is the Peter Criss album, Gene and Paul. But it's a solo album done within the confines of the band, I guess. And that's that. I don't think that's ever been done.
You know what the problem? I think the Ace album was the best album.
Well, we know that. Everybody says that's
a good album.
Everybody says that. It's what comes after that we all argue about.
Exactly. Let me tell you, it's like today, if you look at it, Paul McCartney and George were the best Beatles songwriters. Like it or not. John
Paul and George, or Paul and John?
Paul and George. Because I think George's album was much more superior than John's album. I hate to say that. John had a great album.
Well, Rob,
George had a great album.
Yeah.
John did a fucking Communist Manifesto, the whole Imagine album with a fuck.
Yeah, I know.
Shit on the album, and Paul McCartney had a great career.
I think George had the best Beatles solo record. Okay, with all these past.
Paul McCartney lived longer and had more songs.
But Ringo's song "Back Off Boogaloo" actually charted higher than any of their songs.
That's actually true. Yes, he had the biggest hit. Yeah. He had the biggest hit.
You know what? Because Ringo didn't give a fuck. Ringo was there for the ride. Ringo had the best life ever. He was. You
know what's a great song?
When you think of Ringo,
it's a great song that I mean, you talk about Beatles solo records, and I don't think I've ever listened to this song without cranking it up, and that's "It Don't Come Easy."
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's just such a cool pop record, and it's kind of like Phil Spector-ish in a way, and it's just a great track. I saw him do it about 20 years ago, like his all-star band was playing Jones Beach, and I went, and he did that, and
it's
I mean, it was amazing live, But I Rob, what you were saying about you kind of left John out. I get it as far as solo stuff, but within the confines of the Beatles, John was better than George because George wasn't allowed to put out that shit. It would have been different had he put stuff out, but he was restricted.
But why couldn't he? Because he was under.
Because it was John and Paul were the main songwriters.
Yeah. But the problem is, if we would have put a lot of George stuff there, it would have been as good as.
Because there's a lot of egos in this band. All right, that's what it really came down to, and I don't look. Paul's my least favorite Beatle. Okay, but I'm not going to say that he's my least favorite songwriter in the band. Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
Paul had
because I mean, you couldn't have had the Beatles. You couldn't have had any of those songs without Paul. Really.
Let's see. One thing when it comes to them being separate, writing their own songs and not splitting up as the Beatles. Yeah. I think it might have been interesting back then after the White Album that they did do 4 separate albums that they all put out by themselves, kind of like the way Kiss did, because like Phil Collins actually made an interesting point when he said all of a sudden he woke up one day and started writing all these songs and thought, these are too personal to use with Genesis. I want to do this on my own. Wow. And it's kind of the way George did it in the Let It Be movie, where he's just like, I just want to release my own record and see if I can do it. And I just want to see what happens.
Yeah. And he did it, and I'll take it to my grave. Nobody topped that record.
It was very
the other three guys. Nobody topped All Things Must Pass.
That's a great. To me, that's the best single Beatles album ever. I think George took out the best album because he put
and it was to me. It's a perfect.
No, we froze.
Hello. Anthony, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What happened to Mike? Did we lose Mike?
I guess.
Hold on, let me
somebody
see.
Jiggle the handle.
Maybe one of the kids got on the internet. No, I always love George's stuff. Hold on, let me send him the link. Oh yeah, hold on. I'll send him the link real quick. Give me a second. Bada bing, bada boom. And I gotta thank you, Anthony. Thank you for coming back on the show, man.
Hey, this is a lot of fun, man. I appreciate it.
I hope you don't think we're badging each other too much, because we do fuck with each other on this show a lot.
No, it's hilarious. It's definitely hilarious.
Now, Mike, you know what I gotta tell you? Hold on, I'm sending him. Oh, did he get back on?
No, he's off completely, and you're coming back into the picture now.
I got him back.
Fuck.
There he is.
What happened?
You were about to make this incredible point.
I don't remember what it was. Okay. I remember now. I remember now. Hold on. Don't fuck me up here. I was saying that All Things Must Pass is a perfect record from all three sides of it, all 3 albums of it, and the production, the Phil Spector production. Maybe that doesn't get enough credit. I really think it deserves to, but it was the best solo album. But within the Beatles themselves, it's Paul and John. I can't say any. I can't include George in that, and I love George, and his contributions to the Beatles was great.
Fuck you. George was with the Traveling Wilbury.
Look, George is my favorite Beatle. But you can't. George contributed like 8 songs to the fucking Beatles. You know what I mean? Like what can you can't say it's not John. You know what I mean?
You
can't
wouldn't think about a George like that if he would have sang with Michael Jackson. Say.
Fuck Michael Jackson. He took all his fucking rights. Fuck that shit. Speaking of Michael Jackson,
what the hell
what's the best Michael fucking Jackson song? The best Michael Jackson song is Ben. All right. I was watching that movie the other day. It's on fucking Fire Stick on my Pluto TV on demand. I was watching it. I haven't seen this movie since I'm like 15 years old. I'm like,
why is it Ben? Where he bend the kids over?
No, it's not Ben.
I'm sorry.
It's Ben, like Benjamin. It's Ben. Okay.
I'm sorry. Did I take
It's about a rat.
Yeah,
it's about a rat.
His pet rat.
It's about his pet rat that makes an army of rats that attack people in Los Angeles. It's fucking great. And Michael Jackson has the theme song. It's called Ben. It's a song about a rat.
That's an outrage. You should have watched about one of the kids he bend over.
Listen, we're way off topic here. Let's get back to the fucking Beatles.
Let me tell you. Right? You know what was sick? When Paul McCartney sang say with Michael Jackson and his sister was his girlfriend. How fucking sick was that? They were playing games with each other back then. Think about that.
And they did that song together, and not too long after, he stole all the rights to the Beatles records.
Yeah, what the fuck
right from him.
About?
They had a big
How
falling
crazy
out
was
with that.
That was
They had a big
crazy.
falling out. I know.
Well, getting the copyright stuff for any song is actually really easy. All you have to do is ask for it and have the money available. I mean,
Right.
Paul McCartney owns the rights to "That'll Be the Day" by Buddy Holly, and I'm sure he gets paid for that. But Michael Jackson's estate still owns some of the Beatles songs, or some of the parts of the Beatles songs. Paul McCartney owns some of the parts of the Beatles songs, but Sony owns the mechanical rights.
Right.
So if anybody wants to play a Beatles song but not play the Beatles song, you got to pay Sony. But if you want to play the actual Beatles song, like if you wanted to put "I'm 64" or "When I'm 64" in one of your movies, and you want to use the original Beatle version, you got to pay a lot of people.
Yeah,
but
you could. What if you just have somebody sing it?
Once again, you'd be paying Sony.
You pay Sony for the mechanical rights.
The mechanical rights, yeah.
I got you.
The mechanical rights are just so you can play the song.
Okay.
Or so somebody can play the song.
Okay,
but
so
the
let's
mechanical rights are a lot cheaper than like when you got to pay everybody else.
Right.
That's why you see people like it was a telephone commercial years ago where they used the song "Help."
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
And it was cheaper. Sony had just acquired the mechanical rights, and it was cheaper for them to use another band to play the song than use the original version.
Yeah. Wow. That's why you don't hear too many Beatles songs in movies.
Yeah, and the Beatles actually put it down really hard. But we'll talk about that when we get to Revolution 1.
Yeah.
There's a big deal that goes along.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Now, the next track after Mother Nature's Son on side 3 was "Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except Me and My Monkey." Okay, great title. And that evolved from kind of like a jam session. And George Harrison claims that it's kind of based on an expression that the Maharishi used to say. Okay, something about everybody's got something to hide, something like that. Okay. Sexy Sadie. Now, you wouldn't know this, but this song is actually about the Maharishi also. Yeah. But John wrote it, and it was originally called Maharishi, but he changed it to Sexy Sadie, and basically he said it was the inspiration for the song, but he decided to just change the name to Sexy Sadie. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
I think it evolved from like a nickname he called the Maharishi or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Well, just real briefly, that whole Maharishi thing, it fell apart when they were there because I think by the time they all left at different times, they never finished it. Okay, the whole trip, and I think George was the last to leave, I think, and he stayed with it. But John and Paul and Ringo left before. Ringo left first because he couldn't stand the food.
Yeah.
The Indian food was killing him. All right. So he left first, and then Paul left, and then John. And John left because supposedly there was a rumor, and it was never found out to be true. It was never based on fact that the Maharishi was like fucking around with some of the girls. That were on the, but like people say no, that never happened. So who knows?
Wow.
Okay. I've heard two different reasons why they left the Maharishi. One of them was that he was just in it to get laid, and the other reason was because Brian Epstein died, and they need to get back.
They needed to get back. Yeah, that probably created a little bit of a urgency there to get. Yeah, I get it.
See that.
That's true. That happened at that time. Now the next track is, it could be my, after While My Guitar Gently Weeps, it's probably my favorite song, and that's Helter Skelter.
This is a great song.
Now it was written by McCartney originally almost as a blues kind of song, though it got heavier as they were working on it. And the original takes were kind of like long jams, and they couldn't really, they said this song is going to be like 15 minutes long. We got to find a way to cut it down. So in September, they worked out a shorter version of the song. And but even in the short version, you could pick up on the the kind of chaos of the recording of it. George Harrison supposedly, I think this is hilarious. He supposedly was running around the studio when they were recording this with a flaming ashtray on his head, and he was saying how he was trying to tell everybody he was Arthur Brown, like Arthur Crazy World of Arthur Brown with the fucking thing on fire on his head. Okay. And then at the end of the track, of course, you got Lennon saying, like, I got blisters on my fingers at the end of the song. You know,
that was actually Ringo. Ringo said that.
No, John says it.
Really? Yeah, it was Ringo.
No, it's John. Are you sure?
I read it on Wikipedia earlier today, truthfully.
Okay. I stand corrected if that's the case. I always thought it was John.
Everything on the internet's true, right?
Well, I always thought it was.
On my fingers.
I always thought it was John, even before Wikipedia. So I don't know.
I actually thought it was John for the longest time, also.
Okay. Now this is the track. This is the track, Rob, that Charles Manson interpreted in a different way.
Yeah.
What he didn't know is that Helter Skelter is like a British kind of slang word for a slide on a playground.
Yeah.
Okay. And he thought it meant like something to do with hell or the apocalypse or something like that.
Yeah.
And he felt that
Charles Manson actually believed that the Beatles were the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
And, yes, that's right.
And Helter Skelter was their battle cry,
Right. And he believed that there was hidden messages on this album. Piggies, for instance, was another hidden message. He felt that the Beatles were talking to him, telling him to start a race war, an apocalyptic war, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. So the next track is called Long, 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 and it's a Harrison song. It's kind of based on Bob Dylan's Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. Yeah. The song is kind of like about a reconciliation with God. All right. That's the way it's kind of translated. McCartney plays what's called a Hammond organ on that song. The next side is side 4, the last side. Yep. And we got Revolution number 1. Now, this was the first track recorded for the album. All right. We worked on this first. And initially it was being recorded for a single, but as the sessions went on, the song kind of changed a little bit and it got a little slower. Okay. And they decided it had more of like a laid back kind of groove. They didn't want to make it a single. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, and you mentioned Hey Jude, earlier on in the show. Hey Jude was released as a single after the White Album. It was actually worked on during those sessions. Yeah. And they put on the B-side a version of Revolution number 1. And this is the version you hear all the time. Okay. Right. It's got that kind of distorted guitar. Yeah. There's that echo on the bass, which echo on the drums that I swear kicks off glam rock.
Wow.
Okay. Maybe like 2 years early. Okay. But it kicks off that sound of that drum in Revolution is the basis of, Ziggy Stardust, Gary Glitter, T-Rex, a lot of that stuff. Okay, that's that echo drum effect. I don't know what it is, but it works. But that's the version of that everybody knows. It has the Nicky Hopkins on piano, but the version on the White Album is kind of like a slower, more relaxed version. What were you going to say earlier about Revolution?
Well, Revolution. It ran into. We were talking about copyright at the time, and back in the '80s, Nike ran into trouble. Because they used Revolution number 1 for one of their commercials.
I remember that.
I remember that.
Immediately, Apple Corps and the Beatles went after them, saying, "Hey, that's our song. We're going to sue you for using it."
Right.
But not only did once the Beatles Corporation got paid for the use, the illegal usage of that song because they never got permission.
Yeah.
They also had to pay Michael Jackson $500,000 for his part of the rights to that song.
Yeah.
Holy shit! So they had to pay everybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Nike lost out big on that marketing campaign. But another interesting.
When Coca-Cola used a song, didn't Coca-Cola use a Beatles song?
I don't think they ever did.
I don't recall that.
That's not a Beatles song.
I like to give the world.
No. You know what you're thinking of? Is the song that's like, I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's not that's a song they made up. That's a song they made up.
Wasn't that a John Lennon song or something?
No.
That they did?
No, that's just somebody. No, somebody just wrote that song for the commercial. That's not a song by anybody else.
I always thought that song was like a Beatle ripoff.
Maybe you thought it was like Imagine or something. No, it
was like Imagine. So I thought
that might have been. They might have had it in mind, but it doesn't really sound like it that much. You know, they could. It wasn't a copyright issue. That's for sure.
Revolution, I remember Revolution was a problem because there was like a huge problem when Revolution came out, and
they made a very cool. They made a very cool promo video for Revolution #1 too. If you haven't seen it, very cool. You know,
but another interesting thing about Revolution #1 is because John Lennon wrote it because the Black Panthers came up to him and asked him, "Will you write a song that will help us with our revolution and help us with our cause and stuff like that?" And John Lennon at first was all for it until he found out what some of the things that the Black Panthers did
were about. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the lyric, if you listen to the lyrics, it's almost the antithesis.
It's sarcastic. It is almost like, because when he says, if you want to have pictures of Chairman Mao, whatever,
you make it with anyone.
You ain't gonna make it with anyone anyhow. Meaning, like, you're not gonna get anywhere with that. Okay, or it might have meant you ain't gonna get laid. Okay, it might have meant that too. Okay, but he was saying, like, because at the time it was very popular for the hippies to be walking around with a little red book in their pocket of the Chairman Mao. Okay, and that was everybody was talking about that at that time, but he wasn't for that. Lenin, the politics. I don't want to get into it, but the politics with Lenin is very, very interesting, and I wish somebody would write like a real kind of definitive thing how he evolved over the years politically. But you could see it in '68. He wasn't totally buying into that shit either.
Dude, let me tell you, this is a problem with that man. He fights so hard to be with the country, and once he became a citizen, he shitted on Vietnam soldiers, and people were pissed over him.
He was against the war, but he didn't do anything to the soldiers that I've ever heard.
No, but again, he shitted on the whole war. He shitted on the whole Vietnam. Yeah. So a guy that fought so hard to be a citizen, you know what? You could have easily picked up your shit and go back where you came from, you idiot, and take your Japanese wife with you. But you want to shit on the country. That's why.
I get you.
When the fucking guy came up and shot you in the fucking head, that guy should have got a Medal of Honor. That's my whole problem with Lennon. I got a fucking problem with him. I think the guy
sounds like you do.
I think the guy that shot should get a Medal of Honor. You know what?
What was it Dennis Leary said when John Lennon gets 5 shots in the chest and Yoko Ono not one fucking shot?
Yeah, not one.
Dude, let me tell you, I think the guy came to kill Yoko Ono, but they both have long hair. They both look kind of Japanese. So there was probably choice. Fucking guy shot Lennon.
I don't think you could shit. You'd have to be lumped up to confuse. You'd have to be lumped up to confuse, a little Japanese, ugly little Japanese woman and John Lennon. I don't know, but okay.
You look at both of them; they almost look like twins after a while.
It was dark out.
It was dark. The guy didn't have his glasses.
That's it. All right, let's try to finish up here. We got Honey Pie as the next song, okay? And that was McCartney's kind of ode to 1920s flapper music. Okay. When you hear the beginning, it sounds like an old 78 RPM single, revving up. Okay. Lennon plays guitar on it, but he was on record saying he hated the fucking song. Okay.
Yeah.
The next track is called
Communist.
The next track is called Savoy Truffle, and that was named after a type of chocolate that Eric Clapton used to like to eat. Chris Thomas arranged the saxophone parts, and he actually plays keyboards on that. The next track
Mike,
is.
I got one question. Did he like to eat that with George Harrison's wife? That's all.
He might have, He might have put that. Are you saying he ate chocolate out of her ass, Rob? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that. I'm just assuming.
I mean, let's call a spade here. You're talking about eating chocolate out of somebody's ass.
I'm leaving it alone. I'm sorry.
All right. We'll leave that for we'll do a whole episode on that. Okay. Crybaby Cry is next. And that was a track that Lennon began writing way back in 1967. And the lyrics came from the tagline of like an old TV commercial that he remembered. George Martin played what was called a harmonium on the track.
Harmonium, okay.
Now, next was Revolution number 9. Number 9. Okay. And that came from a bunch of overdubs that they put together, related to Revolution number 1. Lennon, Harrison, and Yoko Ono herself added kind of like what was called tape collages, where she was into this avant-garde tape looping kind of stuff, and it was done in a style.
Can I tell you, I smoked a joint and I'm listening to this shit, and I didn't know if we were getting attacked by aliens or Martians was coming to my room.
You get a bad trip off that.
Revolution number 9 is not meant to be. Yeah, you can't like do acid.
I'm like listening to this, and then I'm like, what's going on?
You'll flip out.
I was hiding under my bed waiting for somebody to come into my room, and he made it.
And it doesn't end. Like you think, you always think it's just number 9, but it's like a whole other thing around it too, with all the gibberish.
It's almost like 9 minutes long. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I took some mushroom thinking I'd be all right. I'm listening to the White Album, but Revolution number 9, I wasn't a revolution. I was like,
damn.
Oh my God!
I haven't done mushrooms in like 25 years. I don't even. If I did mushrooms now, I'd fucking jump off the fucking Manhattan Bridge. It's like.
My God, they're coming to take me away.
I
said, listen to the song. I'm tripping balls, and I'm like,
The interesting thing about
Go ahead.
The interesting thing about Revolution 9 though is it's like you said, it was a lot of segments of like conversations or music takes, and they would either flip them over and play them backwards, tape them together, or they would just do a bunch of stuff like that. And they're rumored to have a whole bunch of Beatle messages or
hidden messages
in it.
Yeah,
they have to have a bunch of hidden messages.
Yeah. Now,
one of my friends who was the big Beatle maniac, he said if you play it backwards, which I've never done, it's a completely different song. And,
really?
And so I've never done it myself. I don't know what it sounds like.
I've never done that. But, I tell you, that whole playing shit backwards thing, like I think I only did it on like a Judas Priest record. Like I didn't do it on like a Beatles record,
Well, George Carlin, he was doing his disc jockey thing, and he was talking about listening to Crosby, Stills, Nash, Sacco, Vanny, and Zangetti, whatever. Yeah. And he says, and if you play the track backwards, you fuck up your needle.
I never wanted to fuck up my needle because I always had like a top notch phonograph. You know what I mean? I didn't record play. I always I'd walk around with holes in my underwear, but I'd have nice fucking stereo shit. You know what I mean?
No, but let me tell you, the only song that you can play backward that ends with a good story, it's a country western. You get your dog back.
Yeah.
Your wife didn't eat
Yeah.
you, and
You get your
still have
truck.
your house.
And you still got your truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only song to play backward. Because if you
Now,
I was making a comment to my dad because I listened to this. I listened to the whole album over the last couple of days to prepare for this, and I'm sitting there listening to Revolution 9, and I'm sitting there all of a sudden picturing like Clockwork Orange playing this song on speakers, very, very loud, flashes
in your
with
face,
the guy with his eyes stuck open. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right, and you can't listen to Beethoven no more.
Yeah.
So with Revolution number 9, McCartney, I mentioned this earlier, he was pissed off because he wasn't included with the process. He was actually out of town for a couple of days while they worked on this. And, he felt like he should have been involved with it because it was done in the style of an avant-garde composer named Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. There were guys like John Cage, Stockhausen, people like that were kind of inventing this tape looping weird kind of recordings. And McCartney was interested somewhat in it. He had done some stuff the year earlier, I think a year earlier, based on that stuff, kind of separate from the Beatles. And I guess he just felt like he should have been involved with it, but he wasn't. Now, the last track on the album is called Good Night, and perfect song. And it was written by John Lennon almost as a lullaby for Julian Lennon. And he originally wanted Ringo to sing the song. Now, early takes of the song do have Ringo singing it.
Wow.
Okay. But in the end, like George Martin's production kind of took out John's guitar and they changed some things around, and, Ringo doesn't sing it. Okay. It's
heavily orchestrated too.
It's very orchestrated, which I think John didn't. That's not what he wanted with the song, So what we got to talk about in the end here is the packaging of the record, which was very different. It was issued on November 22nd, 1968. The album came out in the UK. And then 3 days later, it came out in the United States. Now, it was the third album released on Apple Records. They had just started that label about that time. And the first thing was Harrison's Wonderwall music, okay? Yeah. And then Lennon and Ono's Two Virgins. That was the first two releases on Apple. The record was referred to pretty much as the White Album right away. But when it comes to the record cover, pop artist Richard Hamilton designed the record sleeve in collaboration with Paul McCartney. They worked on it together. And Hamilton's design was totally different than Peter Blake's Sgt. Pepper. Okay. They went for just a simple white sleeve. Okay. Now, the band's name on the original releases was embossed. Okay. When I mean embossed, I mean it was a raised kind of, you could feel it when you touched it. Yeah. Okay. And then it was kind of, the Beatles was kind of like slightly to the right of the middle. Okay. Now, later vinyl releases in the US showed the title in gray and in printed letters. So it was a little bit different later on in other releases. Each copy of the record got a serial number. And it was supposed to be like, up to 5 million or something like that. And in 2008, an original number 5 White Album on vinyl sold for 19,201 pounds on eBay.
That's a lot of money.
Wow.
Now, but even more, in 2015, Ringo Starr's number 1 serial number, his copy, sold for $790,000 on auction.
Did he need the money?
Maybe it went to charity. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think. Maybe he did. Who knows?
Maybe he needed drugs.
Maybe he needed the money.
Maybe he needed drugs, some good drugs.
Need a new pair of sunglasses. I don't know.
Pay for the re-release of Caveman, or
Listen, Cats in the Box and that. Don't fuck with Caveman. Okay. The line in there that is the best line ever in the movie is "Caca, doo doo, shit."
That is a great line.
It is. Top notch right there. Now, the sleeve on the record included a poster comprising of a montage of photographs with the lyrics of the songs on the back, and then a set of 4 portraits kind of together of each of them. Okay. Now, during production of the album, not too many people know this. The original title, they weren't going to call it the Beatles or the White Album, obviously.
What were they
It was going to be called A Doll's House.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was changed because there was an English band called Family that released an album earlier that year called Music in a Doll's House. What do you got there?
That's the poster.
That's the poster. Yep. Oh shit! Yeah. Nice.
Oh, you got
nice.
Wow, nice.
It's not. Yeah. It's not an original. I got a box set with other demos and stuff.
Cool. Just briefly, the sales of the record. It went to number 1 in the UK on December 7th, after being released November 22nd. 7 weeks later, Yellow Submarine would be released. And that was kind of a follow-up to the White Album. That was songs that they had already. They didn't even really work on that shit. Did the movie come out in 68 or was it earlier?
It came out after the White Album.
So 68, yeah.
Yeah,
it was
during
69.
Actually, it was during the White Album sessions, because that was the last big deal that Brian Epstein did for the Beatles before he passed away.
That's right. So while they were working on the White Album, that movie came out. Right. And
the only original song written for that movie was "Hey Bulldog."
Yeah, that was stuff that they had in the can. They didn't have to work on that at all. You know.
Yeah.
Yellow Submarine got to number 3 in the UK that year. The White Album was still high in the charts at the time, so they had 2 albums that were competing. In the United States, it was a monster hit, and it sold 3.3 million copies in its first 4 days. Holy shit!
Yeah,
that's a lot of copies.
Think about that. I don't know if anybody's. It's different now. You can't talk about music now the same way, but even like if you think of a major release, Michael Jackson, even or I don't think he did that. I don't think he sold 3 million in 4 days. Maybe he did. If he did, God bless him. But I don't think so. So
Michael
I think it was
the biggest album was the Thriller album. That was his biggest album, which made.
I don't think that sold 3 million in 4 days.
It's the highest grossing album. But
but it sold 25 million copies of Twitter.
Maybe
over a year, or maybe.
But could you imagine? Think about it. In those days, in '68, the end of the year in '68 came out right. Came out right before Christmas, right? So it everybody probably ran to their record stores right away and picked up that record and probably bought more than one. Right. I'm buying one for me. I'll buy it for my kid for Christmas. Whatever. Okay.
Mike, compare '68 when Michael Jackson's album came out. It amounts to the same thing, because there were probably more people and there were more media people. But if you compare the Beatles to Michael Jackson, 3 million albums at that time is about the same thing as Michael Jackson saying 25 million album at that time. It's the biggest selling hit. 3 million album. At that time, it's 3 million album in '68. Think about that.
And what's great too is it was a double album.
Yeah.
Double albums traditionally do not do well.
Right.
Okay. And that was George Martin's concern, I'm sure. Okay. He knew that history. I mean, you talk about Exile on Main Street. Okay. That came out 4 years later by the Stones, and nobody wanted them to make a double album. Okay,
How
they
about George
don't do that.
Harrison? What's a triple album?
George Harrison was that's true. Perfect example,
Yeah.
and that sold that I don't know
Did
if it
very
went to
well.
number one, but it was very close. Okay, it
Yeah.
sold a lot of records, but traditionally double albums don't do well.
No.
But that did. Now it spent 9 weeks on top. Okay, by December 28th, and then the following 9 weeks in the United States, it was on top. It actually spent 215 weeks in the Billboard Top 200.
Wow.
That's what?
That's a
That's
long
what,
time.
4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give or take?
Yeah.
A little
Okay.
over 4 years.
Yeah. In the top 200. So in 1972, you were still looking at that thing in the charts. The Beatles weren't even around.
Wow.
Okay. Amazing. Now, one thing to mention though, and it doesn't mean shit, is that critically it got mixed reviews in the beginning. Okay. Critically, some people felt it was kind of like overindulgence. They had too many songs. It should have been shorter. But some people loved it. They thought it was like the best work they had ever done.
One interesting thing that I found out a lot later was that the Rolling Stones, they were having trouble keeping up with the whole psychedelia thing. And all of a sudden, one day the Beatles release back in the USSR or Helter Skelter, and they're hearing straightforward four.
Thank God it's over.
Yeah. And they were like, "Oh God, thank you."
Yes, no, that I've heard that myself. They when that came out, they said, "Oh, we'll go back to making rock music again," you know. So definitely, but okay, so that's it for the White Album.
Wow. I gotta thank you guys for
long journey to the end.
Guys, I gotta thank you for this because I learned a lot about the music. I'm glad that Anthony came on the show. I think Anthony, you might be a guest that we got to bring for other shows when we start talking about stuff like Beatles and stuff like that. Mike, thank you for all the research, but I think this is a super episode, man, because you guys, we cover a lot of stuff, man, in 2 hours. Dude, 2 hours and 10 minutes. And Anthony, you know, this show part, the only thing I would cut off is that little part. It's going to be a 2-hour show, so get ready.
Listen, you cut. Yeah, you cut out. I mean, yeah, just don't cut out the part where you said Yoko Ono should have been shot too. Okay.
I might put that. I might put that at the beginning.
You might want to think about that part where you were talking about what the song "Bend" by Michael Jackson actually means.
Yeah, bend over.
Let Grover take over.
Shit, we're going to hell, guys.
So, guys, I like to thank Anthony. If you guys are looking for Anthony, he has a great podcast called Hey Bartender. It's on everywhere in social media. Look it up. He got great swag. You can go to Hey Bartender HeyBartenderPodcast.com and get merchandise. He has one of the best coins ever. So if you have a bunch of friends, you can get this coin. And you flip it, either you pay or they pay. It's a fantastic thing. I use it all the time in the neighborhood. And I get a lot of free
and he's related to Henry Winkler.
Hey. Guys, check this out. And we're gonna put information. If you're a bartender, you want to be on his show, give him a call because you're still taking interviews, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm constantly looking for people to interview.
Well, call me. I'll send it to you.
I think we talked once a little bit, or shared emails. Always looking for servers, bartenders, people that worked in the service industry. I'm actually trying to branch out and talk to flight attendants and other people like that to bring on the show and talk about their lives. So
flight attendants are interesting. You should have RockerMike on your show, a Verizon worker. We got to go and fix people's phone line.
Yeah. I want to be a guest on your show, Anthony.
Yeah. Well, let's make it happen, man.
Anytime you let me know, I'm available. I have no life. It's good.
Yeah.
So, people, if you look for any other show, if you look for Anthony, you got your website. How can people get in touch with you, buddy?
You can find me on social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. All of those are at Hey Bartender Podcast. You can also email me. The email is dude@heybartenderpodcast.com.
Dude.
Mike, how
I'm
can
the
people
dude.
reach you? I'm the dude. How can people reach you, Mike?
I'm all over the place. RockerMike 212 on Instagram. RockerMike 212. You can find me on CloutHub and MeWe under RockerMike. You can find me on Facebook under RockerMike because they won't let me be RockerMike. RockerMike, okay? And, of course, the Rock Show podcast group page on Facebook. Got all the good stuff on there every day, song of the day, all that stuff. That group's been growing a lot lately. Rob, where can we find you besides at the bar?
Unlike Joe Biden's approval rating, my approval ratings are up. And you
Listen,
can find me anywhere.
on your
social
worst
media.
day, your approval rating is higher than Joe Biden's.
And you can find me anywhere, just like Kamala Harris. Just look me up and you'll find me
Yeah.
on social media. Getting Lumped Up. Facebook, Getting Lumped Up. Instant Messages, Getting Lumped Up. Wherever you go, Getting Lumped Up. But I'd like to thank Anthony and Mike for a great show today. And it's Wednesday night, guys. And after tonight, what are we going to do? We're not going to get drunk.
We're going to get lumped up.
Well, Hey Bartender.
Yeah, right on.
Take care, people.
All right, people. Good night and have a good one. See you soon.
Take care.
The only podcast you will hear that will be music to your ears. You'll learn about bands you love or may not know, and it's only here on The Rock Show. Ooh, yeah, on The Rock Show. Ooh, yeah, on The Rock Show. Don't tell your friends and everyone you know. Let's get lumped up on The Rock Show.